Hello everyone and welcome back to another reading. So I've actually just finished this reading for each group and I'm coming back to do the introduction now, and this was probably one of the most important readings that I have ever channeled for the collective. So you're welcome. Because it's really amazing. So it's an Akashic Records reading. We're looking into your past lives, 2 specific past lives that are connected with magic. This was the intention that I went into the reading, but it became something so much bigger than I even thought it would. But basically my intention was to do an Akashic Records reading to look into your past, your experiences with magic, holding magic abilities in your past lives to kind of activate that sacred remembrance within your DNA. And in doing it, it really turned into something really special and magical to be a part of, and I'm just truly honored and blessed to do this with you. It feels like a co-creation. So pick whichever card you feel most drawn to. They're really in depth, and I mean, there's not that much more I can say. So I'll see you for your reading and enjoy. Hello group 1 and welcome to your reading. So I channeled 2 past lives for you and specific sort of psychic and soul level gifts that you possessed in these lifetimes, as a form of awakening a deep remembrance within you. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over your card at the beginning. Oh, we got the 6 of Cups, Memories of Love. Wow. So this is going to be a deeply activating reading for you then, because we got Memories of Love. You are meant to remember these past lives and have sort of some of these threads come back to you now. For you, more than any of the groups, I feel a deep longing for this lifetime, especially this one. Okay, so the alchemist one is what I'm getting. You have a deep longing for this lifetime. There was something about the way that you were possessing spiritual abilities that you really miss at this time. Okay. You really miss this. You miss the difference in the densities between this realm, like between what we're experiencing now on Earth and what you experienced then. The Tantrika's lifetime I see came later. Okay. So, oh my God, there's so much to come through. Okay. So you had a lifetime as an alchemist. That's the first thing I got. And then I got China or India, which is really interesting because I don't know if alchemists are traditionally really linked with China or India, but that's what I got. I mean, I think they were traditionally around like Egypt and kind of like the Middle East, but I really got China and India. So I looked it up and apparently there is actually some alchemists that existed in China and India. You can look up specific times. It's kind of like in China, it was like Taoist kind of religion. And in India, I can't remember when it was, but it was ages and it was like really ancient times. But it spanned like a really long period of time. So I couldn't really like pin down a specific time frame and when this lifetime was. But you could sort of intuit that for yourself if you kind of look it up. And if you feel more drawn with China or the Indian energy, it could be one of those two. So I see a lot of this lifetime was about immortality, seeking immortality through enlightenment. And I feel this is something you carry in this current lifetime, is like some kind of an understanding about immortality and the way that humans are kind of meant to live at least for a very, very long time. This is something that I channeled really early on in my awakening, is that humans are actually meant to live for many, many, many hundreds and hundreds of years, like in one life. That's how long we're actually meant to live as humans, as the sort of innate human blueprint or energy. And I don't know how much that's really been expressed or experienced on this earth for I don't know how long. Like I feel like even in this lifetime in ancient China or India, you were already feeling the disconnect between the divine human blueprint of how humans are meant to live for many hundreds of years, and you were trying to reclaim that even then. You were trying to reclaim this sense of immortality, this sense of living for a very long and full life. Keep in mind that a lot of what we are told from history books is not actually accurate and it can serve its own hidden agenda. So you can't really look to history books for complete accuracy. There are some truths within there, sure, but we have to be extremely discerning about it. So anyway, I don't know how long humans have been disconnected from this ability to live for many hundreds of years, or even immortality in some cases. In some sort of ancient civilizations, I kind of see more like an immortality kind of blueprint. Or maybe it's future civilizations, because in the quantum field, it's like, is it past or is it future? Or is it all happening at once, right? It might be more like future things I'm tuning into, where there is actually immortality on Earth. But basically, the innate human blueprint is very, very magical. We are very magical beings. We have been disconnected from our magic. We've been disconnected from our power. And we have been disconnected from our true lifespan. Our birthright as humans is to live for a very long time, to gain a lot of wisdom, and to kind of see shifts and changes happen through the earth for a long, long, long time. Yeah. So the way that humans' lifespan is so incredibly short right now creates extreme amounts of suffering for ourselves and for our loved ones. And it's actually not at all right. I mean, if you look around the world, you see wealth? I mean, do you see health? That's interesting. I said wealth. Well, but do you see health? Do you see health? Do we see healthy humans living for a long period of time, living out this beautiful, healthy existence or not? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of ill health on earth. There's a lot of things that have accumulated over many lifetimes, many generations, passing on genetic weaknesses. And we've gotten to the point now where, human lifespan is very, very short. And actually, it's quite remarkable how long humans can survive for, considering how much poisons and things we're exposed to, and how incorrect our diet is for what we are meant to eat and things like this. So there's a lot of things that are out of alignment at this time, and it can be quite shocking when you awaken to this. I don't know why I'm going into this, but Spirit's just talking through me. It can be quite shocking when we awaken to this, because we can see how much things are out of alignment. We are meant to live in pristine environments where there is no pollution, there's no poisons. In fact, right now we have poison in our air, in our water, in our food, in our clothes, in our cleaning products. In almost every single thing surrounding us, there is poisons. We have poisons passed on from intergenerational DNA, like genetics. There's so much going on with where we're at, but it's because we're on the verge of a great shift, okay? It's always darkest before the dawn, and things have gotten so bad that they have to change now. We can't continue to adapt as humans to what's going on. We need to change, we need to evolve, and we need to upgrade. So part of that will be through physical detox and other practices as we basically move towards the new earth. So I feel like you're really coded for the new earth, because I just started going on about that. And yeah, I feel like there's something about this. You have ancient knowledge. You have ancient knowledge about the divine human blueprint and what it's meant to be. And you knew about this very much in a past life, in this alchemist lifetime in China or India. And the Six of Love, the Six of Cups, memories of love. It's like, in deep inside of yourself what humanity is meant to look like, what this earth plane is meant to look like, how the earth is meant to be, without pollution, without violence, without suffering and things like this, like how unity consciousness could manifest and what it would look like, what it would feel like, how that would be. You have specific codes within you that is meant to be shared and expressed through your wisdom, through your understanding, that is going to help change the world. Even just these codes of immortality, I feel like you still hold them within you. You might have always thought like humans are meant to be immortal, or you've meant to be immortal. And it's like, I know that might sound kind of out there or something, but I mean, nothing's really out there on my channel anymore. It's like, you might have thought that for a long time, or this might be something as I'm talking, you start to remember and be like, yeah, I kind of have always thought humans are meant to live longer, or that the way things are isn't how it's meant to be. Spirit's saying, go into that and really feel into that, because you have more codes here to awaken and remember. And I feel like this group in particular, you're here to remember things. You're here to remember something that you already know, a wisdom that you already have, and a wisdom that you already hold within yourself. And these memories as well, they could actually come from future lifetimes, future timelines. It doesn't have to be from the past. I know this is a past life reading, but everything's in the quantum is happening at once. So there's something here about you have memories of how things can be. It might be from ancient civilizations as well, but I'm almost feeling as well that this is like, even in this lifetime as the alchemist, you had memories of the future, of like how humans are meant to be. Codes about when the earth's consciousness progresses, when we clean up our karma, and when we can experience something different on this earth, what we call the new earth, the unity consciousness of this earth, where the earth is clean and healed. There have been things invented that shift the way that humanity progresses, where there is no more violence, there is no more duality, there's no more division, suffering, and fear and trauma, where we have healed and cleaned and cleared to such an extent that we live in a totally different reality, where humans can exist for many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, even thousands of years. Like, I'm seeing something about this. Like, this is actually what the true human blueprint is meant to be, and we're meant to be very magical beings. This is why there's so much within our culture, within our consciousness fields, like our collective consciousness fields, to do with things that are magical stories, superhero stories, things that possess these things. We feel drawn to them because it's activating deep memories within us of like, wait, this is real, this is true, or there's aspects of it that are true or real, mixed into the fictional element of it. And it's such a great deception that it's been put into a place of fiction, because it's actually not fiction. It's very, very real. But we have been sort of told that if you believe in it, in something that is considered fictional, like magic, superpowers, superheroes, to whatever extent, that this is very silly and stupid, but it's actually very, very wise, because there's a remembering of something very deep that you hold within your soul. So in the future and in the past, both, I feel you have memories of both. You have memories actually of the new earth. Wow, this has never come through in a reading before. Amazing. You have memories of the new earth, memories of love, exactly, memories of unity. You know what it feels like. You know what it's going to look like. You might even have codes of how it's going to happen as well. Or it might be codes from a future time where it's like, several hundreds of years into the new earth, and you know exactly what this utopian civilization will be like or look like, or what humans will do. How humans will be innately one with their magical gifts, and there will be no ego, so there will be no fear of that. Okay, so let's go into your past life. So, alchemist in China or India, you sought immortality through enlightenment. Yes, you didn't get there though, but you did gain knowledge. Okay, breathwork, herbs, elixirs, internal practices, embodiment and energy mastery. May have been a hermit, but may have had family, children, practice sexual alchemy with a partner. So some of you will be more in the hermit sort of side of it, where you literally devoted your entire life to your practice. And I feel like you might have been very obsessive about it and not really had time for a wife and children because I feel like you're a man in this life, okay? Feeling very masculine kind of energy. Yeah, something about this, like I don't think you had time for it. But others of you would have practiced a very specific form of partnered alchemy with a partner, where it wasn't so much about the traditional life of like raising children and having a home and having dinners and cooking and things that are nice and cleaning. And it wasn't so much about that, but more about let's ascend together. And especially like you might have been in this lifetime with a very specific like soulmate or soul level partner, twin flame kind of energy, where you came together in alchemy to do partnered alchemy that was like together. It was alchemy work that you could only do with a partner, and you chose to do it together in this lifetime. For some of you, I see a split down the middle in this group. Some of you were solo, some of you were partnered, whichever resonates more. So your gifts, shifting between realms, dream, spiritual and physical, astral projection, and retrocognition, past seeing, past lives, picking up on a lot of lost information. You were searching for it. You were searching for something. Yes, I wrote that down. And so you were searching for something. I could feel it. You were searching for something that you had feel like was lost. It was lost in the alchemist traditions, or it's lost in some kind of ancient knowledge. You were trying to figure it out. You're trying to read all the things you could. You were voracious for knowledge. You're like, give me all the knowledge. And I feel like a part of you. Okay, so it's really interesting that I've wrote the past. You had retrocognition, because this is blowing my mind right now as I'm tuning in at this lifetime. I feel like a part of that was a limited way of thinking, because actually I think part of the answer came from the future. And if you had looked into the future, you might have found the answers that you were looking for. But instead you looked at the past because it was kind of more of a linear framework that you felt comfortable with. So you were like, well, the thing must already exist if I already feel it to be existing. But something can already exist and be in the future at the same time. It doesn't have to come from the past. Things aren't as linear as we have been led to believe. So I feel like this was a little bit of a trick, actually, that you feel like when you passed over to the other side and you look back on this life, you're like, oh my God, why was I looking in the past? It's like you did find hidden information, by the way. This was like one of your greatest joys in this life, was you were like a scholar. You were like studying and practicing and doing magic and all this kind of like astral projection and like this sort of thing. But you were kind of like a scholar. I see you like reading a million books, like constantly taking in information, like I need more. I want answers. I want answers to my questions. I want answers. And you might kind of be like this in this life as well, because I feel like it's more of a soul level thing. It's like you have this kind of intensity about you where you're like, I want to know. So you were searching for something that was you specifically knew about it. You were like, this feels like, oh, sorry, I hit the try button. This feels like ancient knowledge that you felt like had been forgotten, and this is why humans had degraded in their consciousness and in their magical abilities and in their disconnection from immortality or long life. You were watching the way that there was suffering on earth, and you were like, this is not how it's meant to be. And you already had codes for the new earth, for the future. How amazing is that? It's like you already knew about the future, for the codes for the new earth, for where humanity is going to progress to in the future. It's like you already knew about this. Like, wow, you already have memories of it in yourself, because you're such a like pivotal part of the new earth's energy, I feel very much. So you were searching for something. You were constantly searching and astral journeying and projecting and going into these different realms, like the dream world, the spirit realm, and even like searching around the physical realms. You would kind of like look and like remote view a library and see like, are there any books here that I need to come travel to get? And you would be like, yep, there's like 7 books that I need to come. And then you would make the journey and travel, and you would get the books and you would read them all. You would take it all in. You had like photographic memory as well. You were highly intelligent. You had photographic memory. it's coming really fast. You did things really fast. Like you could speed read. Like you could read a book in like a second. Like, not a second, but it was like you would read a page in like a second, and you would like photographically take in the information and then move on to the next page and the next page and the next page. And you were just like laser focused. This is why I'm saying, like, I don't think you had a traditional partner or family in this life. I think you were very focused on your mission. It was very much like a devotion to God, to spirit, to your spiritual practice, to the alchemy part, that path of alchemy. But you might have had a partner who you felt like was at your level or close enough to your level that you could practice some form of partnered alchemy with them. That kind of enhanced your practices for some of you. But some of you were very like solo, and you were like interested in being solo. You're like, I want to be solo because I don't want anyone to slow me down. That's kind of the energy I'm getting. Yeah, and the 6 on your card, you got the 6 of Cups. The 6 energy is the third eye, and it's like you really were all about hidden things. Like you wanted to find things that were hidden. You wanted to find out hidden information and secrets, and you wanted to kind of figure out the lost, like something about the lost worlds, the lost information, the things that have been hidden or maybe even intentionally hidden. Like I feel like you're a bit conspiratorial in this lifetime as well, and you were like, things have been hidden from us on purpose. They're trying to take it away from us, and you kind of like knew that, and you were sort of like really suspicious. You were really suspicious of authority, of institutions, of things like this. So it's like a lot of your work was very solo. I don't feel like you had a mentor necessarily. I don't feel like you wanted one. I don't feel like you studied within a group or a school. You might have, if you did, it was just for your own reasons. Like you did it so that you could gain access to their information, because you know how there's a lot of like mystery schools that like don't let you in unless you're initiated or you earn it. So like you might have done that, but you never devoted yourself to any one place. You wanted freedom, ultimate freedom, and you wanted to basically, find everything out for yourself. So very interesting lifetime. I see a lot of remote viewing. And again, the thing that you were like, damn, why did I do this? Was when you passed on to the other side after this life, you realized you were looking in the past and you weren't looking in the future. And that was the greatest flaw you had in that life. Okay, so your other lifetime, the Tantrika, this was Hindu in India. So this one came after, and I don't know if it was the next one after this, because I feel like this one had trauma in this lifetime, or there was trauma that preceded this lifetime that made you go into this. Okay, does that make sense? So for some of you, I feel there might have been a traumatic experience. There was something very like violating that happened to you either in this lifetime in your early years or in your most recent past life before the Tantrika lifetime. And it led you to this path either voluntarily or involuntarily. So what I'm seeing about the Tantrika's energy is that it was kind of like these hidden schools or these hidden places where you would go and practice, and they would be sort of like hidden from the world, and like people wouldn't necessarily know where it was. And they would often actually like hide people there, like people who wanted to run away from their life, they would actually go to these places. And so I think there was something you were running from, like an arranged marriage or something that you didn't want. Like you didn't want this. You didn't want to do a path that was already laid out for you by society or by your family of origin or something like this. You wanted freedom to basically be your own person. Like you're very freedom-oriented group one. So there was something about this. You were like, no, I'm not doing it. And someone helped you to come and find this hidden place, this secret sort of school. I feel like it was a very secret. It was a secret. And people didn't know where it was. They didn't know where you were. You just vanished. And no one knew who the person was that helped you. But I feel like it might have been a mother or a family member or a cousin or someone like that. But there was some kind of trauma that you were also experiencing either from a very recent past life or from that actual life in India where you were traumatized in some way. I feel violations of some kind. Very, very painful for you. Oh, so this life was a bit heavier than the alchemist lifetime. I feel like the alchemist lifetime, you were a lot more in your power. You were in this tantrika lifetime, but there was a lot more emotional alchemy that you had to kind of get through. And it wasn't very easy for you to be in a body, like in a physical vessel, because you're experiencing the real dark side of being in a physical vessel, which is when we have violations and we don't feel free and things like this. So you did feel free in that you got to live your own life in a way in this sort of tradition, this sort of tantric traditions where you were studying. I don't think that you had a partner, but some of you might have, but I don't feel it was sexual at all. Like I don't feel sexuality at all in this life, so I don't think so. I don't feel sexuality. I feel like you actually didn't want that. You were like, no, I don't want that at all. So I think you just rejected that. So let's see what I wrote. So, it could have been Tibetan Buddhist as well. For some of you, I think a lot of you, it was India, Hindu, but for some of you, it could have been Tibetan Buddhist, Tantrika, okay? Whichever one you feel, it's yours. Okay, so sacred rituals, mantra, meditation, inner union. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Definitely wasn't sexual because you were working on the inner union, okay? Between the Shakti and the Shiva, the masculine and the feminine. You were not interested in the outer union between male and female body or whatever other. You might have even had a different sexuality in this life. Like you might have been same-sex attracted, which is why you needed to flee a arranged marriage, or you just didn't want the feeling of being forced into a marriage. I'm seeing something about arranged marriage, especially for the Indian one. But there was something about, really wanting to reject sexuality from kind of a troubled place, though, not necessarily like a complete free place. It was more like, I don't have that many choices, so this is what I'm going to choose kind of thing. So there was a heaviness to it. But you worked on the inner union. You worked on the inner union within yourself. That was your focus. You worked on the inner union. It's sort of similar to your solar energy in the alchemist lifetime. Although you could have, like I said, you could have had a partnered, you might have actually been partnered at some period in the alchemist lifetime doing some alchemy work with someone. Okay, so sacred rituals, mantra, meditation, inner union. Yeah, so you did a lot of sound healing. That's one of the gifts that I said. Through the mantras, these were like specific mantras I'm seeing that were secrets. Like people didn't know about these unless you were in the sort of small confines of this group. Like it was a small rural, I'm seeing it being very rural, very small kind of community where everyone was studying. And I see that it was actually a very sanctuary. It was very much a sanctuary, very positive space of worship. Like there wasn't any corruption within the authority figures or anything. It was very like peaceful and loving. There wasn't really even authority figures. They were just like those who had gone deeper into the initiations and had like more knowledge. But they weren't like wielding their power over people. It was more like people chose to come here because they wanted to be free. And they were offered sanctuary and food and a place to live if they devoted their life to this form of spirituality. So a lot of people came there because they felt like rejects from society, or they felt like they didn't fit in or belong or something like this. So it was like kind of this sanctuary in the mountains. I'm seeing kind of like colder weather. I know India can get quite humid, but I'm seeing kind of like more, I'm seeing more like wearing kind of cloaks and stuff. And some sunshine too. It's not like it was always cold, but there was like a little bit more of that kind of like, contrast. So I'm seeing mountain energy. Okay, so, the mantras, that's right. They were secret. They were secret mantras, so people didn't actually know what they were unless they were initiated into them. They were like secret sounds that would activate different energies, different energy centers, different manifestations, and you loved it. You loved the sound aspect of it, something that I feel like you're meant to actually reclaim in this lifetime. And as well, if you were in the Tibetan one, there was obviously the Tibetan singing bowls. I saw a lot of that, and like the gong sounds and things like this. Like a lot of sound healing was done. And a lot of group chanting, like coming together and chanting together, was a really powerful way of like lifting the energy and the frequency. And this was one of the main ways that I feel like you healed yourself from the trauma that you had within yourself. You healed yourself through sound a lot, through chanting, mantra, through song, through music, and different like gongs or singing bowl kind of sound devices. And you just loved sitting in the vibrations. Like it was your favorite form of connecting with spirit was actually through sound in this lifetime and music. And I think you wanted to I think you might have devoted yourself to practicing different musical instruments, like ancient ones. And like I said, it was your favorite thing to do. So you were isolated from common society. That's right. I already said that. It was a very isolated place. Luckily, you really resonated with the people there. You loved the people. They became like family to you. There was one person in particular that you really became like best friends with, and they really looked out for you because they could see that you were very wounded and traumatized. You might have been a female in this life. Did I say gender already? Because I feel like you might have been female. Because I feel a vulnerability. Not that you can't be vulnerable as a man. I feel like if you're a man, you might have been same-sex attracted, or as a female. But I feel like as a female, there was something about like really not wanting to get involved, like whichever gender you were, okay? Whichever gender you were, you didn't want to get involved in the traditional gender norms of the day, like what you were expected to do for that gender. You didn't agree with it or you didn't resonate with it. So you wanted to like live outside of that. And I see you had a best friend who was like a man in this life, and he was also there. He was a little bit older than you, and he really like looked after you and cared for you and made sure you're okay whilst you were going through a lot of trauma clearing and work. And like, I feel like you didn't really speak about this trauma even to anybody, but they didn't really need you to speak about it because they could read it in your energy really easily. And you did a lot of healing in this lifetime. Like, you were really grateful to be able to just sort of like devote your energy to your healing. Secrets passed down orally, like, and a library. Yeah, there was a library as well. But a lot of traditions were spoken. I'm seeing this. A lot of it was spoken orally in this life. And you really enjoyed that. Like, there's something about your ears. Like, you really enjoyed listening to the teachers speaking or the initiates telling you about it. You really enjoyed listening to people's wisdom that would come through, or their channeling, or listening to the mantras, or really feeling through the sound. Like I said, music, sound, mantra, chanting, singing. You loved the ears, okay? In this life, you were very interested in sound and learning through sound. Not so much reading and writing like you were in the last life. I see in the last life, you were very, very much like wanting to read, like give me all the books, give me all the information, or all the answers. And you did a lot of like automatic writing in your like alchemist lifetime. But in this tantrika lifetime, it was a lot through sound. And I think this again is like, it was a little bit more feminine lifetime. Whichever gender you were very much in the feminine. You're very much a feminine being in this life, which might have been why you didn't, well, yeah, if you were a man, you were very feminine and you didn't really fit in to what was expected of you or something like that. Like I said, your sexuality might have been different. You didn't want all of that. You didn't want all of the masculine energy, what was expected of you as a man. Like, you were like, nah, that's not me. So you did actually gain a lot of freedom. Like I said, it was a beautiful sanctuary. You're very grateful for your life there, but a lot of it was spent healing and recovering from trauma. Okay, superhuman strength. Woo, forgot about this one. I forgot about this one. Oh my God. I forgot about this one. Okay. Whoa, right? Hello. So one of the reasons that, like, okay, this one just came through and I was like, really? Okay. But I think this makes a lot of sense. So number one, you had a lot of trauma, and a lot of that trauma needed to be expressed through your body through anger. Okay, number one. Oh, I keep hitting the microphone. I'm so sorry. You had a lot of trauma. You needed to express that through anger. And I feel like part of the way you did that was through some kind of physical movement and activity where you, like, I don't know, I'm seeing you like lifting up really huge rocks and like throwing them, like boulders, and just like being able to like grab it and be like, "Argh," and like throwing it, and kind of like something about wanting to be able to defend yourself physically. Like, you wanted to be able to be strong enough to defend yourself physically. There was something about you where you felt frail, or you felt something about you felt vulnerable. Like, I keep feeling this vulnerability, but then I channeled the superhuman strength, and I was like, whoa, such a contrast. So the other thing is that when we channel chi, when we channel life force, one of the main things that we need to have the physical vessel to basically be able to channel it. Okay. Like, we really do, or else our whole body can kind of get fried and like we can't do it. So we need to have the physical vessel. What I mean by that is, like, we need to have muscles that can be conduits for electrical energy. We need to have strong connective tissue. We need to have strong bones. We need to have literally strong physical vessel to be able to channel chi and life force in the most powerful of ways. Like, the more powerful of a channeler we are, the stronger our physical body needs to be to meet that. So I see that you did a lot of practices to clear out the physical body, to heal the nervous system. Now I'm tuning in. I see you did a lot of fasting. You might have even done fruit fasting, actually, like juice fast. There's something about, you knew about ancient techniques for cleaning out the body. And you did it because a lot of our strength actually comes from our nervous system. And a lot of our nervous system gets damaged through not just trauma, but also poisons and toxins and forever chemicals and things like that we're exposed to, heavy metals. Yeah. So something about, you did some cleaning exercise. You cleaned out your body from toxins, from poisons, and it gave you like this conduit for chi that was like really strong. So a lot of your strength actually came from life force rather than building muscle. And this is like the ancient monks, you know, they used to be able to like sprint up a mountain like the entire way because they had so much life force in them. You know, it's this kind of thing, like superhuman strength. Rather than think of it coming from muscles that you would build, it actually comes from the whole vessel being able to hold enough life force to hold that level of strength. So you cleaned your body out really well. You knew about ancient detoxing practices of some kind, and you did them really diligently. It was actually a huge part of your life was about health. A huge part of your healing was also done through physical means like fasting, fruit fasting, juice fasting, and even dry fasting. Well, so you did a lot of detoxing. I'm seeing like other things that were like knowledge back then that I don't really know how to put words to. I'm seeing very specific practices of like cleaning out the bowels and different things. Really interesting. So you did that and it made you really, really strong. So I'm saying you could pick up a whole boulder and like throw it. You had like a lot of power in your body and in your vessel that was like really powerful. I feel like this came later in your life though, because you took a lot of time, like even a decade or something, to really clean out the pain, the trauma, and the physical vessel. Okay, so you also got mind over matter, ability to alter the physical through thoughts, intention, and resonance. So I think this was like, because I was tuning your spirit, it's like, is this telekinesis? But I got it wasn't. So telekinesis is like basically where you can shift things with the mind. Like you could pick up, I don't know, a spoon or whatever on the table and like move it around with your mind without touching it. But it's like sort of like that, but I'm seeing it's like the precursor to telekinesis is what you're practicing, okay? I don't think you fully got there for some reason. Something about the way that your karmic energy was blended, it wasn't a full match to it, because with telekinesis, we have to be like really, like to be able to sort of granted the powers within ourselves because they live within us. To be granted them, we have to be kind of like completely pure and aligned. And I think there were certain things that you had, like you had a lot of anger, basically. You had a lot of anger and resentment, which is why I felt the superhuman strength was really important to you, because it helped clear some of the anger. And the anger was totally valid. Like I'm not dissing the anger. The anger was good. You might still have this anger in you a bit. But it did block you a bit from full gifts. But it's something that you have memories of. Like you have memories of telekinesis. Like I can feel it in you. I feel like you've done it in a future life. Yeah, like new earth vibes. Having our full superpowers like back to us as humans. So you were kind of doing like the precursor to that though. Like I see you like moving energy a little bit. You were becoming one with the wind. You would do practices like that. But like I said, the biggest sort of freedom that you felt was actually through music, through harmonizing with the vibrations of sound, through singing, song, chanting, mantras. And you would really channel, like you would really tune in with specific mantras that would really, really help you unlock things inside of yourself. And you had a really close friend in that life. And in general, you had a sanctuary that was very safe to heal from, to heal within. And you had a lot of gratitude in your heart for the opportunity to heal, and you understood what your life could have been like and how bad it would have been. All right, group 1. That is your reading. Wow, what a journey, right? So there was a lot of information in that reading. You might want to go back and listen to it again at another time just to kind of refresh. And if you would like to check out more of my work, please see all the links in the description box below. So I've just created a new Akashic record clearing ritual and affirmation tape, like a sleep tape, that's going to help to reprogram your subconscious mind and really deeply clear your Akashic records. I channeled it as a karma clearing tape and ritual. And there's sort of a ritual you can speak aloud as well that I will give to you. So it's like a full kind of package of Akashic record clearing, and it came through really organically with this reading. It felt really connected to what Spirit wanted to bring through in this reading. So it will help you clear negative karmic imprints, contracts, and vows. It will help you release limiting beliefs and old karmic patterns. It will help you align with your soul's highest purpose and your true original divine soul blueprint. It will help you reclaim sovereignty and your truest expression of your power, and in general help with healing, love, and abundance in your life. So all the information will be linked in the description box below, but I really recommend you check it out, especially if you resonated with this reading. Much love and take really good care. Hello group 2, and welcome to your reading. So I'm actually filming your reading first, which I usually don't do. Even before I've done the introduction to this whole video, because the energy came through so strongly for your reading that I felt compelled to just begin with you. And it feels like this avalanche of energy that wants to come through. So I feel like this is going to be a really pivotal reading, and I really encourage you to listen to the whole thing, because I do have a ritual that I'd like you to do to speak aloud, because I'm going to tell you why. So it feels so intense. All right. It's coming through so strongly. So I picked up on 2 past lives for you. One of them where you were a shaman in very, very, very ancient India, prior to Ayurvedic knowledge, where Ayurvedic roots sort of began in ancient tribal sort of civilizations. So very, very long time ago. However, before you had this lifetime as a shaman, you had a lifetime actually as a nun or a monk, depending on which gender you chose. You were a nun or you're a monk, and you devoted your life to God, to the worship, like a Christian. It was a Christian monastery or nunnery. So keep in mind as well that when we choose our incarnations, it's not linear. We don't choose a lifetime in the 1500s, and then the next lifetime's the 1800s, and then the next lifetime's 2025. It doesn't really work in a linear way. We kind of bounce around the times, even going into the future, just depending on what our life is, what we are intending for our lifetime. So don't let that confuse you. So this lifetime where you're a nun or a monk actually came first. Whew, and it was a heavy one, okay? There is some karmic energy still left over, which is why I felt really compelled to start with this one. So I want to tell you about it. So basically, you're a monk or a nun, Christian. You were either in Spain, Gaul, which is ancient France, or Britain, around the 5th to 7th century CE. As I started tuning in, I heard a Scottish accent in my head. So I don't know if that's relevant for some of you. I feel like it could be different places depending on who's tuning in, but it's around that area, around that time frame around. So tune in which one feels most accurate for you. You might really have always felt drawn to France or Spain or Britain or Scotland or England or whatever. So just see what happens. But I did hear a Scottish accent, if that's a clue. So you lived in a monastery or nunnery, okay, and you often took vows of obedience, poverty, or chastity. Okay, so this is where it gets intense. So as I was writing this out, because I was automatic writing, all of this channeling came through for you. So it says, this is what I wrote. I'm just going to read you what I wrote. If you are disciplined over earthly desires in a reasonable way, this life has integrated. If you are rebelling, overly attached to the earthly pleasures, or reject structure to your own detriment, this life needs to be looked at closely. You may have made a vow in that lifetime that is still in your Akashic records, that you need to do a ritual to release. Vows of obedience, poverty, and chastity are all related to lifetimes as monks or nuns, particularly in certain traditions. So basically what I got is that you definitely took a vow, okay? So for some of you, you might have integrated this lifetime because you've been working on it, but I still feel like you need to do this ritual if you chose this group regardless. I'm going to show you what you need to do I'm going to link it in the description so you can read it out. But basically what you're going to do is take a deep breath and speak aloud 3 times in a row. I release all vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, or any other vows that no longer serve my highest good. I revoke them now with full power and free myself from their hold. I am worthy of abundance, love, and freedom. I choose to step into my true power, fully sovereign and free. So it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're going to say that 3 times. It's going to change your life, okay? I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. It will actually change your life. This feels really strong in your Akashic records. This lifetime was very traumatic for you, I'm feeling, where you were the nun or the monk. And you did take on vows. So a lot of the tradition, this tradition that I was picking up on, they took on vows of chastity, which is, no sexual relations of any kind, or even sexual feelings or anything, kind of renouncing sexuality. Obedience to God, and poverty, which is not indulging in the earthly pleasures at all through money or greed or anything sinful. Even things like eating a very basic diet. So monks and nuns, they follow the ascetic traditions, the ascetic kind of path to God, which is more of an ancient one, is not very practiced very often anymore. And a lot of us will have had lifetimes experiencing this in some way or another. So it's a very disciplined practice, which is why I said that you might have issues with discipline in this lifetime. Depending on which side of the spectrum you fall, you might be a very, very disciplined person, have a lot of structure, and really kind of, I don't know, have integrated that knowledge and that teaching, or you might be on the other side of it, which I feel for a lot of you are, where you really rebel against the discipline, you rebel against the structure, you rebel against having to kind of give up the earthly pleasures, even if it's at your own detriment, right? Even if it's like sort of not serving you in some way. And this is sort of what I was getting, is that there's something here that's unfinished. And I really feel this vow, whatever you took, these vows, they really, really messed up your free will. Because when we take vows, it's serious, okay? When I first studied the Akashic Records course, I'll link it below, by the way. It's called Soul Realignment by Andrea Hess. When I first studied that in 2020, I found out I had taken a vow of silence in a past life. And it was all this karma connected to my mother and like other relatives in this life and stuff. And when I found out, I was like, oh my God, so much of my life makes sense now. So much of it makes sense. So I've worked ever since then to like really release this vow from my Akashic Records, and I think I've done pretty well. But these things can really like linger and like last with us at a soul level, because they are very kind of binding rituals that we take on. And even like in traditional marriage ceremonies back in the day, there was also like women would take a vow of obedience to their husbands and things like this. This stuff can really mess with our relationships moving forwards, with the way that we manifest and live our life. So if you have experienced anything to do with poverty, anything to do with like really having issues with sexuality, sexual energy, sexual embodiment, or anything to do with obedience and rebelliousness, like really not knowing how to have discipline in a way that serves you. Because I find with the vow of obedience, there's sort of this natural rebellion that comes in that makes you want to do the opposite, like go in the other direction. Like, oh, you're telling me to do this? Well, I'm going to do the opposite thing, which is fair enough. But the thing is that it can become sort of a self-sabotage pattern, because at some level we need discipline, we need our will, we need things to be structured. Just as much as we need freedom, we need flow, and we need flexibility. We need both things at once. We're in duality. We need a balance of them. So if we completely reject discipline, then we are kind of setting ourselves up for failure. And that's something that I feel in some of you. I feel a split in this group, okay? Some of you, I feel you really rejected discipline to the point where it hasn't served you. And you might also be aware of that. Like maybe you have a real thing about eating yummy foods and like heaps of sweets or I don't know, things that aren't really that good for your body. And it's like, it's so hard for you to just say no and kind of have that willpower. Or maybe it's something else. Like, I don't know, just anything where it feels like discipline is required, you might reject that. And it's because of this trauma that you had in this lifetime where you were the monk or the nun. I actually feel like this lifetime was not a very happy lifetime for you. Yeah, like I feel a lot of pain when I tune into it. Okay, but some of you, I feel like you do have discipline, and this is because you have lived as a monk or a nun. So it's like some of you integrated it in a different way, and you're more like okay with discipline, but it's even that you might need to still be coming back into the flow of things, back into more of the wildness, the wild and free energy that your soul might be craving. And you might sort of not know how to do that. You might be sort of stuck in that energy of discipline and structure and doing the right thing and saying no to the earthly pleasures to the point where your life doesn't feel pleasurable. Does that make sense? So it's like, I feel like you might be on either side of the spectrum, or maybe you fluctuate between them both and you kind of ping pong between discipline and structure and then going back into the pleasures and the wildness and the free. So in this lifetime, when you were the monk or the nun, I feel like you really just tried to escape it most of the time, okay? I know, it's really intense. So the whole point of this reading, was that I wanted to explore your gifts, your psychic abilities, your soul gifts from your other lifetimes on Earth. So particularly past lives, because I feel like future lives can get a bit confusing, but if you're keen on that, I can do a future life reading too. So based on your past lives, okay? This is the intention for the reading, was your gifts from your past lives. So when I was tuning into this lifetime, I mainly just felt trauma, all right? I felt a lot of trauma, I felt a lot of pain. So I think there was some kind of like real harshness from authority. That's what I'm getting, like some kind of authority figures were really like not loving and unkind. And you really went into this lifetime like as a human, not so much your higher self or your soul. I think your higher self and your soul kind of knew a little bit more what would happen, but your human self went into this practice, this monastery, this nunnery, with such an open heart, with such a kind of naivete and innocence, where you were like, yes, I just want to take this on. I just want to take on this lifetime and like devoting myself to God. And you were totally ready for it. Like a lot of us, like I said, a lot of us spiritual beings existing today on this earth today, we have experienced lifetimes where we devoted our entire life to God, to spirit, to a spiritual practice of some tradition, or multiple. As I found through this reading, often it's actually multiple. So you went into this life as a human, in this human life, and you were so keen, like you were so excited. You were like, yeah, I'm so excited. I get to do this. And you got accepted into the monastery, the nunnery that you wanted, or your name was on it from birth. I don't know. There was something about it that was like predestined, and your family supported you. They were really proud of you. They wanted you to do this. So you did it from a young age, like kind of a coming of age energy I'm seeing, maybe like around puberty or so. And when you went in, it was such a shock because it wasn't what you thought that it would be. You had idealized this as a place of worship, as a place of God, as a place of, you know, kind of all of the religious, like Christian kind of beliefs around forgiveness and love and fairness and equality and all these things. And it wasn't that, okay? There was a lot of darkness here in this place. There was a lot of authority figures that had been corrupted by power and greed, and who had kind of done things that were very unethical and very out of alignment with God in order to kind of get to where they wanted to go. And I'm seeing like one or two in particular that were very cruel and horrible. They might have even used like physical punishments. Like I'm seeing like someone getting hit like with a stick or a belt or like something like this. Really horrible energy. I know it's quite triggering. I'm not going to go into that too much because I think it's actually a bit too intense. But just know there was a lot of reasons to feel what you feel as you tune into this lifetime. Like it's very, very valid. I can feel it as well. So it was very harsh. Let's say that. It was a very harsh environment. There wasn't a lot of forgiveness. There wasn't a lot of room for error. It was very like cruel as well. Like punishments were cruel. There was a lot of trying to turn disciples against each other. Like your other monks and nuns, they tried to turn you against each other, so that you wouldn't kind of like, I don't know, see through. So it's sort of like a triangulation technique or a deflection technique from the authority figures, so that you wouldn't see the authority figures as being wrong, but you would kind of try to blame each other, your like fellow peers, see them as being the problem. There was a lot of sort of brainwashing and mind control as well, where the authority figures were really got to you from a young age. Like I said, you went into this around puberty, so they really got you when you were very young and impressionable. So it was very kind of easy to hold your mind. They used a lot of shame, a lot of shaming techniques to control. Okay, so in this lifetime, I'm going to get into a better lifetime, by the way, your shaman lifetime. We're going to get into that, okay? It's going to like lighten things up a bit. So in this lifetime, you used your psychic abilities more as an escape. So you were meant to develop them, like to some extent, but I think that you also had them as at a soul level, like more advanced than people around you, and you kept them a secret a lot. Like it wasn't what you thought it would be, okay? As a soul going into this, or like as a human, sorry, I keep saying soul, but like it was more your soul, your higher self kind of knew a lot more, but your human self going into this lifetime, you were thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be able to study, and this is my dream of being able to devote myself to the spiritual path and like develop my spiritual abilities and all this stuff. And then you got in there and it wasn't really about that, and you weren't really allowed to develop your own personalized spiritual abilities. They were more like seen as wrong, and you might have even been punished if they'd found out about it. So 2 gifts that I channeled for you, was it 2? Yeah. Energy manipulation. And I thought this was interesting the way that it came through, because I was like, manipulation, that's interesting. I just thought it was an interesting, because there was a lot of manipulation going on in this place. So energetic manipulation. So over like the senses, over the physical, over other people's energy. Like I see you were actually really good at creating, you were really good at hiding. There was some kind of gift of invisibility that you had that you used. So you also got shape shifting, right? So you could change your physical appearance partially or completely, and you could shift into animal form. So I see that you went into animal form a lot to free yourself. You kind of would go into that form. I don't know if you physically did or if you astrally did, because I'm not sure. Seeing as how much oppression energy you're under, I feel like it might have just been astral. But I see that you would like fly as an eagle or a dove. Like I see a lot of birds and a lot of also like big cat energy, like wanting to run and be like really powerful and kind of get out that sacred rage that you had for the way you're being treated. There was a lot of like rage and then also freedom expressions through these animal forms. Really interesting. So you would also use it to hide. So you would become invisible. Like if there was an authority figure that was like trying to find you, you would shift your appearance so you would look like someone else and they would be like, where's so-and-so? And you'd be like, I don't know. And they would like leave you alone. You did a lot of this kind of stuff. It was like really cool. But it was also done like basically a lot out of fear is what I'm seeing, because you were under a lot of oppression energy. Yeah. So it wasn't like... It wasn't what you thought it would be, because you thought you were going to be able to express these soul level gifts in such a free way, but you kind of get into that more in the next lifetime that we're going to get into. So energetic manipulation, I see you, again, you did this to kind of try to protect as well your loved ones in the monastery and the nunnery. Like you helped others. For example, I'm seeing there was like the ones who got into the authority positions, they were like really evil beings. They were like not good at all. They enjoyed to punish and be cruel and all these negative things. So you would often try to protect like your fellow monks or nuns through kind of like confusing their mind. So you would kind of like put fog in their mind. So they would like be walking over to punish someone, and then they would forget what they were doing, or they would turn around and remember something else, and you would have like placed it into their mind so that they would shift course and like move into another direction. So you did a lot of this kind of energetic manipulation, but like I said, and it was manipulation like because you're under so much oppression. That's why I feel like it came through as manipulation, because I feel like manipulation, interestingly enough, is kind of an interesting term. It kind of has a negative kind of connotation, not always, but it can. So yeah, I feel like it was very much connected to what you feel like you had to do to survive. So the shape-shifting was partly to be invisible when you needed to be, but it was also partly to feel your feelings in a free way, where you could experience the wildness and the freeness of being in an animal form, where you weren't in that monastery or the nunnery. You were able to be free and wild, like a lion, a tiger, a bear even, a fish swimming through the ocean, a dolphin playing in the waves. You could be a bird flying really high, an eagle, something really like something about the power. Like you experience your power in this animal form, in these visions, in these shape-shifting experiences. Like you felt it 100% as if you were that animal in that vision. So it's really powerful. Really, really powerful. So I feel this karma is still living within you today, but it's something that you can free yourself from. Like I said, I took a vow of silence in a past life connected to the karma I chose with my family of origin. You can free yourself from it, okay? So I really recommend checking out the description box, what I said. I'll link not link it, I'll copy and paste like the thing I channeled, right, as the clearing technique. Say it 3 times. You can do it daily for a month, or you can just do it once, depending on how powerfully you feel it. If you feel like it's not really moved soft and you feel like it might be deeper, then keep going with it until you feel the shift. Do it every day until you feel the shift. But for some of you, might only have to do it once, because I see you've been working on this karma for many lifetimes to free yourself. And really also reflect upon your own relationship with discipline and freedom. Are you more on the side of only wanting freedom and rejecting discipline? Are you more on the side of only wanting discipline and rejecting freedom and being afraid of that, being afraid you might be punished if you don't act out your discipline, if you don't act out your structure, if you don't complete all the tasks on your list? Are you afraid of being punished by the universe or some kind of spiritual force? Because that is totally a karmic hangover from this lifetime. And vice versa. Are you afraid of discipline because you feel like it will take away your freedom or your power or your liberation? Because we need to blend it and have both. Okay, let's quickly have a look at your card. Oh yeah, so you got the Triumph card. That's right. That's so cool. The horse as well. Horses represent freedom. 7 is the crown chakra, which also represents freedom and liberation. I see this as the triumph over the karma, the triumph over the oppression energy that was trying to kind of hold you back, and you really reclaiming your power. So the Triumph card is number 7, which is the Chariot card in traditional tarot. And the Chariot card is all about moving forwards with a lot of like velocity, like speed and power. So I really feel like this is about freedom, about triumphing over this lesson and integrating it fully so you can free yourself, retain the wisdom from it, but free yourself karmically. Doing that ritual, like I said, to free your Akashic records is a really important step in your life's process. And I literally felt spirit pushing me into this reading. Like I didn't even have time to like catch my breath. Spirit was like, boom, go now. So it feels like Spirit really wanted to get through to you about this today. So we're going to go into the other lifetime now. This one came after the monk or nun. And it was kind of like a balancing lifetime in a way, where you were more exploring your freedom. So you were a shaman, okay, in this lifetime. I feel like you were a man. That's what I'm getting. I feel like you were a man. And you were, I channeled in India. And then I was like, were there even shamans in India? I was like, is this even a thing? But apparently there were, okay? Apparently there were shamans in very, very ancient India. And it was like pre-Ayurvedic knowledge. So as you know, Ayurveda is like very, very common sort of wisdom from India. Like a lot of people know about it. And it's very big there. But before that was even developed, there was sort of more like grassroots kind of understandings of like nature and herbs and like the balance of things. And so I'm seeing you were kind of part of that more grassroots side of it. So you're a man, I feel. And you had a very protecting energy, just like you did in this monk lifetime, actually, or the nun lifetime. You were, I don't know, you might have been either gender in that lifetime, by the way, but in this shaman lifetime, I feel you more as a man. And I feel like you chose that strategically because you wanted to be more in the position of physical power. And I think this is because you had some kind of physical trauma, like I said, in the monk or the nun lifetime, where you were physically beaten in some way. And you wanted to be able to protect yourself physically in the physical body. And obviously, like, men tend to have greater strength and things like this, just naturally because of testosterone and things like this. So this is what you chose. And so you were a spiritual healer. You're a shaman. You're a spiritual healer. You were... So a shaman is actually a Siberian term, because I was like, where does shaman come from? So shaman's actually a Siberian term, but I heard very clearly shaman, okay? So I just went with shaman, but it's actually traditionally Siberian. But there's sort of like many, many places across the earth that's considered to have sort of like shamans having lived there at different times. So we kind of just went with shaman, okay? So you were a part of journeying, ritual, ceremony. You were a leader of ceremony. So you understood about, like, you were very much a leader. So I saw that you lived within community, but you lived on the outskirts of it. So you lived in your own kind of hut or cottage or something. I don't think you took on a family in that lifetime. I think you were alone. And I think this is because the vows that you took in your monk or nun lifetime were still very present in your Akashic records, in your karmic sort of DNA. And so it felt very wrong for you to like indulge in the earthly pleasures, but you also felt a deep sense of loss because you still desired it. And I think you felt confused and conflicted about this because you desired family, you desired children, you desired kind of like a normal life, I suppose, in a way. Oh, it's really sad. You desired like a normal life in a way, but you also knew that it wasn't part of your karmic destiny. Like you were born into this lifetime and like you were so tapped in too. Like you were so tapped in. You had such a clear like vision of energy. Like you could read energy. It's like there wasn't any resistance in the field. Like today, there is so much stuff that clouds our psychic information. For example, EMF, right? Radiations. We have poisons in our water, in our food. We have incorrect diet most of the time. We're not eating the right diet for our humanity. So there's all these things that create, I mean, we have other things going on, but just those examples create like a lot of resistance in the energy field to our psychic abilities. And actually, if we want to improve our psychic abilities, our intuition, we would do well to eliminate those things that create more resistance in the field towards us receiving spirit. So in this lifetime you're born in, there was like zero resistance. I'm just seeing like this clean air. Like it was perfectly clean. Like the earth was clean. The food was clean. There was just this very natural kind of connection to the earth that was very basic and sort of very healing and very, very different, like I said, to what humans experience today, where most humans are extremely, extremely, extremely numb and cut off from spirit. And it's very unnatural. So in this lifetime where you're the shaman, you were very, very connected. You came in with a big destiny. I even see like you were born into this community and then as a baby or a child, you were chosen. It's very similar to your monk nun lifetime where I feel like you came in with the destiny and like all your family already knew about it. They'd already like signed off on it before they incarnated and they were like, yep, we're going to help this person become a nun or a monk or whatever. Same in this community you were born into as a shaman. Everyone knew from the moment you were born, you would be the shaman. Like you would grow up, you would have psychic abilities, you'd have spiritual gifts, and you were kind of treated differently a little bit from the others. So this did also feed into this feeling of like being different. There's something wrong with me. Even though you felt honored by your people and you felt like it was your destiny, there was still a sadness in you of like kind of wanting to, like you were sometimes kept a little bit separate because they were like, no, you're special, you're important. You need to like, they kind of would like put you in situations where you would need to like commune with spirit more deeply, whereas the other children were kind of more given the ability to play and just be free. And they would have different roles in the community that were a little bit more like to do with traditional like community life rather than spiritual kind of path. So you were set out apart from your peers at a young age because of your spiritual connection. You both enjoyed this, but also found it at times challenging. You actually found this at times challenging your entire life because you were living in a heart separate to everyone, because it helped you have the messages from spirit come clearly. Because the other thing that can cloud our psychic abilities, by the way, is the energy fields, the auras of other people. So if we live in a building with lots of other people, sometimes that can, like, we can get to the point where that doesn't have to impact us, but you know, it can still, and it can still be, you know, we can get a lot of insights when we go into solitude or we go into nature and things like this. So you lived kind of in nature, but you were very close still to your people. So you kind of always were attached to them. It didn't feel like you were separate or anything. You weren't like a hermit. And people would come visit you like almost every day, unless you had, I'm seeing you had a certain smoke or something that you would burn if you needed time alone. And people would smell it as they walked up to your hut. Wow, this is amazing. They would smell it as they walked up to your hut and they would know to leave you alone. So sometimes you would need time away from people doing service for your people because you would be getting downloads from spirit and you would need to sit in that energy and integrate it. So in this lifetime, you had a very protective and guardian energy. Like you were really a guardian for your people. That was what was your main priorities. You wanted to protect. You wanted to protect others. And this again came from this trauma in the past life where you felt like you couldn't protect people and you hated to watch people suffer. That was the hardest thing. It was like more painful for you than having the punishment happen to you. It was more painful to watch it happen to others, especially those younger than you. This was very, very hard for you because you saw yourself, you saw your inner child in these people when they would come in and they would have this like loss of innocence and they would see the reality of what they had signed up for and they would be like, whoa, this is not what I thought it would be. And you would just, your heart would just break for them. In the monk lifetime, the nun lifetime. Yeah. Man, it's so sad. So in this shaman lifetime, you really were a guardian for your people. And you did this through, like, I saw you were really, really good at reading the weather. Like, really good. Like, wow, really cool. And you would be able to tell, like, from the dryness in the soil, you'd be like, there's a drought coming. Or you'd be able to tell from, like, the moisture in the air, there's a storm coming. You would be able to, like, read it, almost like taste it. I'm seeing you could almost taste the weather. You felt it with every sense within you. You could feel what the weather was telling you and why as well, like what it was showing to you and why it was doing this. And you were really good at reading archetypes, kind of like deep archetypal energies. And even like the drought itself has its own consciousness, like hurricanes, cyclones, storms, they all have their own consciousness. I mean, they're even given names at this time. You know, like Cyclone Alfred or whatever. Like there's actual names that are given to these things. And you understood that from like a very deep, deep level. So you did a lot of work with dreaming, with sort of dream work, and with the archetypes that you would be shown in your dreams. So you would sort of have dreams, and it would show you things, and you would have to discern, like, is this mine or is this for my people? Because some things were just yours, and they weren't necessarily messages for everyone, but they were more like your own soul kind of figuring it out, like figuring out your path and figuring out the things you've gone through and like integrating it. But some of it was also based in you would have dreams that were for your people that you would be sharing with them, sharing like, I had this dream, this is what it means, this is what it's showing us, this is what we need to do about it. And everyone would respect your word like very, very deeply, which you very much liked. I mean, you even had a leadership energy in your monk or nun lifetime because you were a protector. You liked this, but again, you had this weird, not weird, sorry, I don't know why I said that. Okay, weird. I said it because you felt weird. Okay, that's why. I was like, that's mean. Okay, you had this thing where you felt weird. You felt like, it's sort of like the archetypal wound of Aquarius, where it's like you want to serve your people, but you also don't want to feel separated from them in that service. And that's kind of how you felt. It's like you felt part of the group, but you also felt separated from them through your role. So you felt a little bit like weird or like set apart, and you kind of like dreamed of having a very mundane life, interestingly enough, because you're a very spiritual soul. There's a part of you that just wanted like a wife and children and to like watch your children grow old, and something just about the basic energy of like not having so much responsibility, I guess. But at the same time, you also felt a sense that you would not be able to live that life. Like you understood why it was held from you, because ultimately we have free will, and you understood why you chose this lifetime as the shaman, because it was the natural extension of your past life karma. But you also felt this sense of loss of like, why can't I just be normal? You felt weird. It's really interesting. So no one else thought you were weird except for you. That was just like a personal thing. So I'm seeing a lot of people come up to your hut. They come up to your hut. They walk up to your hut. They take the little walk. It's like kind of far, but not that far. They come up to your hut and then they sense, they have to smell which herbs are you burning. Is it a yes to come in? Is it a no that you have to walk away? And then, or sometimes you would just leave the door open and it was like, yes, you can come in. And people would come in and they'll be like, shaman, I had this dream last night and it was about this tiger and they ate my baby. Like, what does this mean? And then you would like sit with them. And you might ask them questions, or you didn't actually. I wrote that down. You didn't need to ask them questions. You had telepathy. You would read their energy. You would just read their energy and you would say like a few words. This is the other thing. You didn't say a lot. You worked a lot more in silence and in peacefulness. And it wasn't like a lot of talking to help people. It was like very simple answers. Sometimes it would be, you wouldn't even answer them. Wow, this is so beautiful. Sometimes you wouldn't even answer them. You would just hand them a herb and you would put it into their hand and you would close their palm and then you would look away from them and they would know that they need to leave. So you did a lot of things in silence where for some reason, this is how you preferred. You preferred a very like silent kind of energy. And it wasn't like a lot of talking. Like when you talked, people would listen because it was wisdom and you wouldn't talk that often. And if you made the effort to talk, it was because it was necessary. But if you could explain or, not explain, but if you could communicate in a way that wasn't through speech, you would do that if you could. So let's just read what I wrote down so I don't miss anything. So I wrote down journeying, ritual, ceremony leader. Yeah, you were definitely a leader. Drumming, music, fire, stars. Yeah, you did a lot of it at night. I kept seeing the fire and I kept seeing the stars. You loved the fire and you loved the stars. You loved the nighttime. You loved the mystery of night and you loved how like the shadows and stuff speak to you in the night. They like, there's more. Any of you who have clairvoyance, you might notice this, but sometimes you can see more at night. Like, I don't know why this is, but I've experienced this a little bit. It's like sometimes I see more spiritual energy at night, more spirits like showing themselves to me, or more orbs and things like this. And I don't know, there's just sort of like a magical energy about night. And it also kind of holds our fears and things like this. And the subconscious, it's the feminine, it's really interesting energy. So you loved the nighttime. When you held your ceremonies, unless it was a specific medicine that you needed from the sun or from a sunrise, you would like to hold them like right as it started to get dark. And during that sunset time, that's when you felt like really tapped in, and then it would go deep into the night. There would be a lot of dancing and drumming and sort of like singing and chanting, and you would guide them, but you would do it in a very silent way. It wasn't like, it was a very like, you were very like set apart. Like you didn't insert yourself in there with a lot of authority, because obviously you had experience with authority figures, right? In your past life, you didn't like them. So you did it in a very like loving way, and you kind of let other people like step forward and lead as well. Not that you were the leader of the tribe, because there were other people, like other people who had different roles that were important, especially like sort of more like physical protection roles and things like this. Like I'm seeing spears and things like that. But you did have a spiritual role as a leader, and you were the only shaman to this community. It was a small community. Okay, so plant medicines and herbal medicines. So I'm not sure how much like psychedelics or anything there was, but I did write down plant medicines because there could have been, and for some of you more so than others. But you definitely knew about herbs. Like you knew about herbs. You were taught this from the community, like at a very young age, but you also brought in your own intuitive kind of understanding of them. So reading the weather and animal behavior. Yep, I already talked about the weather. Animal behavior as well. Yes. And you really, really took notice if there was animals in dreams or if you saw animals in your visions, because part of what I've always understood about shamans is they would do journeying. Like you would kind of like close your eyes and look inwards and kind of go into the astral realm. We haven't even gotten to the gifts yet. Oh my God. So you created portals. That's right. You read symbols and archetypes. Yeah. You were really good at reading archetypes and symbols. You created portals. This one's very interesting. I see a lot you liked working with the fire. You liked working with the fire, and you create portals where you would get rid of and banish negative energy and like karma through the fires. You'll create a portal through the fire and people would throw things onto the fire to help them release things. And you would do this at key points in the year. You were a guardian of the land and the peoples. Yeah, you were very much a guardian energy in that life. I mean, you might still be in this life. You lived within community, but on the edge. Yeah, I already said that. You're in India, pre-Ayurvedic knowledge. Shaman is a Siberian word, but the shaman came through. Exactly. Shaman came through, even though it's a Siberian word. Okay, so the gifts. So, remote viewing, guardian of your people. Ah, yes. So, you really were really good at remote viewing, meaning that you would like scan around the village and you would kind of see and watch for different energies as it was approaching. Like you would be able to know if there was some kind of a, like an animal that might have been a threat to your people, or like, I don't know what kind of animals there are in India, but like, I don't know, like tigers or something. If there was like a tiger nearby, you would be able to like see it, like before it got close enough. And then there would be able to be some kind of protection, or like you would do rituals and spells and stuff, but there would also be some kind of like physical protection that would be put into place to help them. You would also kind of scan around the other civilizations around. I'm seeing there might have been like a castle that you kept an eye on, like some kind of a royalty or something, royal family living far away. And you kept an eye on them to see like what was going on in their village. Like you could look and you would just see, you would read the energy, and you would sort of travel around the different parts of the world that you were, like as in you traveled around like the land that you were around. The land around where you were. You would travel around astrally and remote view and just sort of like keep a lookout. You did it very much in a guardianship way. You would read the energy, and then anything that was important, you would report back to your people. Telepathy. Much of your wisdom came to you in silence, and you didn't need to speak. That's right. I got that really strongly from you. It's like you didn't necessarily like to talk that much. I think you found it to be not the most convenient way of communicating. I feel like there's something about communication where you like to take it to a high level. So you wouldn't like talk it out with people, and people would know this. They don't come to you to chat about something. They come to you with a specific thing. And it was almost like they knew this without you needing to even tell them. It's not like you told them like, keep it specific, keep it short. It's like they would be in your presence and your energy, and they would just keep it short. They'd be like, okay, it's this thing. Just tell me about this thing. And then you would sit with it in silence. And sometimes the silence would go on for a really long time because you would refuse to speak until you knew for sure what it was that Spirit wanted you to say. And then you would speak and it would be wisdom, or you would just hand them silently. Like I said, I saw you would hand them silently like a herb of some kind. Psychic surgery, advanced energy healing to heal physical ailments fully. Yes, this one was crazy when I tuned into this. Okay, so you had energy healing abilities that is like pretty much unheard of today at this point. I mean, it might exist, but we don't know about it publicly at this point in Earth. Also, I think the density of Earth has changed a lot since this time. But anyway, so during this time, it's like you would heal people through herbs and like physical things, but it was a lot of like psychic work you would do, kind of like a exorcism. I don't like saying that word because it has a lot of negative connotations and like trauma things associated with it, but it's kind of like that, if that makes sense, where you would kind of extract negative energy. You would kind of see it as negative energy that has been like kind of almost like possessing somebody. This is the way that I'm being shown it through your eyes in this lifetime. I feel like I am you right now. Whoa. And you would basically read someone's energy, and you would scan, and you would find in their body like which organ it had kind of inhabited in. And you would read the energy of what was going on, the emotional side of it, and you would be able to extract it from this person, and it would fully heal physical ailments. And you would also like discuss with the person to some extent, I mean, using very little words, right? But you would discuss with them about bitterness. Like you have to let go of bitterness. You have to forgive this person. You have to let go of resentment. You have to feel your feelings, or cry, or grieve this thing, grieve this loss. This is why it's here. So sometimes you would tell them, like you would give them different prescriptions based on what you felt. Like sometimes you would tell someone, you need to go cry. You need to go grieve, and like do a grieving ceremony. Or you would tell someone, you need to forgive this person, whatever it takes, because it's killing you. Something like this. Or you need to be honest about something that you haven't been honest about. You would kind of like feel what it was. Or you would do like a psychic surgery, and you would remove something from someone completely, and it would heal them. So you were a master healer. Like you were an incredible healer, and you had to keep your body and your sort of home very clean and clear so that you could be a channel and a conduit for this level of spirit. Yeah, it was like, whoa. So you lived in meditation and prayer, like almost constantly you were in this state, and you would come and like be part of the community in certain ways. But because you were a shaman, like I said, there was always this sense of being a little bit separated from others. You couldn't just walk into the community and be like, hey, how's it going? You know, there would sort of be this expectation of like, do you have news? Do you have a message? Do you see anything for me this year? Do you see like, what is this? I saw this spirit in my dream. What does it mean? Like, you know, this kind of thing. And so there would always sort of be a little bit of a expectation of you to provide wisdom. And like I said, you kind of accepted this, and at times you really enjoyed it, but at other times it felt lonely and isolating, and you missed something about connecting with humans, because you have always connected with spirit and spirits in the spirit realm and animals and nature, and you're one with all the elements. But it's the human relationships that you kind of had difficulty with. Okay, group 2. That is your reading. Whoa, right? Wasn't that amazing? My gifts have been coming through like so much better recently. I'm so excited. Okay, so just take it in. You might need to watch it twice. Keep in mind, do the ritual that I'm going to, like the spoken words to release those vows that I'm going to link in the description box, and take really, really good care of yourself, okay? I'm sending you so much love. If you would like to check out more of my work, please see the links in the description box below. So I've just created a new Akashic record clearing ritual and affirmation tape, like a sleep tape, that's going to help to reprogram your subconscious mind and really deeply clear your Akashic records. I channeled it as a karma clearing tape and ritual. And there's sort of a ritual you can speak aloud as well that I will give to you. So it's like a full kind of package of Akashic record clearing, and it came through really organically with this reading. It felt really connected to what Spirit wanted to bring through in this reading. So it will help you clear negative karmic imprints, contracts, and vows. It will help you release limiting beliefs and old karmic patterns. It will help you align with your soul's highest purpose and your true original divine soul blueprint. It will help you reclaim sovereignty and your truest expression of your power, and in general help with healing, love, and abundance in your life. So all the information will be linked in the description box below, but I really recommend you check it out, especially if you resonated with this reading. Much love and take really good care. Hello group 3, and welcome to your reading. So I channeled 2 of your past lives that Spirit wanted you to be aware of for Earth. Okay, so they're very balanced, these 2 actually, and they're also probably the most magical ones. Well, they've all been magical in their own way. And that was like the intention I placed, is I wanted your magical lifetime so you could remember and activate this like sort of in your DNA. So the first lifetime that came through is you were a priestess. You were a priestess of the goddess. So I feel like this group has a lot of Avalon energy. I want to say that. When I say Avalon energy, there's a lot of energy where it's like, okay, how do I word this for? Okay, so I got Greece, okay, but I feel like it wasn't in the Greece of what we know today. Like, there's something about, if you look to the history books of like, what did the ancient priestesses of the goddess do in Greece? It's like, it wasn't that, okay? There's something about how it wasn't in the history books, like what you did or how your energy was utilized in this tradition. But I felt like it was Greece for some reason, or maybe it was because something about one of the goddesses you worshipped, like because there was different goddesses that different schools, like different women would work under or worship. So you're a woman in this lifetime, by the way. Priestess of the goddess lifetime, you are a woman, and you really understood the energy of the divine feminine. However, the other lifetime that it came through was you were a wizard. Okay, I know, right? You're a wizard, and in that lifetime, you're a male. So yeah, you have very like balanced energies that came in these 2 lifetimes. Very interesting. So which one am I going to go into first? Okay, I'm going to go into the male one first. Okay, for some reason, I don't know. Let's just go there. So what I got about this one was that I couldn't place it anywhere on the earth to do with any lineage or tradition or even any location. So it almost feels like it might have been in a hidden realm. It might have even been in a hidden realm where it's not known about. Like, kind of like why I said Avalon at the beginning, because like Avalon is kind of considered like a mythical place of existence, but it also does have really strong like hold over our culture, and like there's also kind of a realness to it as well. I don't think it was Avalon because I kind of already tuned in with that and I got to know, but it's something kind of like that, okay? And it was a very, very magical place, but it was still of the earth, very much of the earth, and you're going to realize that as I start talking about it. So in this lifetime, you're a male, and you were born into a family of wizards. So you were born into a deep bloodline of wizardry. Like, it was in your bones, in your DNA, in your blood. You were born to a wizard, from a wizard, in an ancient family of wizards. And you were born as a wizard. So you had magic within you from a very young age, but it was trained. You were also trained. Like, it was within you organically, naturally, but you were also trained as to how to kind of like wield that power, because the power that you possessed was very, really great. And therefore you had to be able to kind of ground it and like work with it in a way that wouldn't harm you or others, because sometimes having so much power, it can almost become kind of dangerous. So you had to kind of come into your power a little bit. So I wrote the ability to wield magic, the use of elements. That's what I really saw, is like you could pick up the air and like use it and create kind of like a whirlwind, or you could pick up rocks like and use them. You could pick up water, you could pick up fire, you could bring it out through your hands. Like, yeah, it was very magical. Probably the most magical lifetime that I've channeled in this whole reading. You also had astrological wisdom. So you knew how to read the stars and kind of interpret them and understand them at a very deep level, like very, very, very knowledgeable. So you were born into a lineage, and I can't place it. Yeah. I don't know if it exists in the history books, but it does exist. It has existed. So really interesting. One of the main gifts that came through for you, well, it came through last, but it came through as mediumship. And I was like, really? When it first came through, I was like, really, Spirit? Mediumship? This wizard can do like all these things, but they have mediumship? But it became clear as I tuned in more. I was like, oh, but what I started to see was that you had a mentor that died. So I don't know if this was a father or a teacher of some kind. Like, I feel like they might have been a blood relative, because there was something about the magic was kept in the family in some way. They were part of your lineage or your group of wizards, okay? And they passed on, and they were very old. They were ancient, kind of wise one, but they passed on, and it was really devastating to you. They passed on when you were like sort of coming of age or something. I feel like maybe in your early 20s. And it was really painful for you because you felt like you wanted to keep learning from them. You felt like you were just getting started with your wisdom, with learning all of what they had to teach you. And you couldn't believe that they had passed away. So what ended up happening after a period of mourning is that their spirit ended up coming to you, and they came to you like very clear, like as clear as day, kind of like completely manifested in front of you. After a period that you mourned them, they came back and they said, I'm to work with you every day in like through my spirit. And basically they became your mentor and continued, but they were even better of a mentor because they weren't refined by any kind of physical limitation, and they could see right into your soul. They could see everything about you. You couldn't hide like anything from them. Let's see what I actually wrote. You had a specific teacher or mentor who died, who you loved very dearly, and the lessons didn't stop with their death, as after a period of time of mourning, they came and visited you each day. They were the best teacher you could have had because you couldn't keep anything from them. That's right. So let's see what your card is. The 5 of Wands, obstacles and challenges. See that gap? It's like you bridged the gap. It's like this was you on the living side, this was them on the deceased side, but there wasn't a gap. There wasn't any gap. The other thing I'm getting from this is that your disconnection from magic might feel kind of like an obstacle and a challenge in this life because it's very unfamiliar to you. You're a very magical being, group 3. Like, hello. Nice to meet you, magical being. You know what I mean? Like, you are so magical. And I feel that where the earth is right now, you might be looking at your hands and being like, where's my magic? Why can't I bring all this magic out of my hands? Why can't I do all these sort of like things? It's like you feel, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. But there's something about your mission in this lifetime where you're meant to bridge the gap between that gap, whatever that gap is for you, like between whatever poses as an obstacle or a challenge. And you're meant to do this to help humanity as well. It's not just for your own sake, it's for the world's sake. So there's a very specific reason that you've chosen to incarnate at this time where the earth is right now, where we're very disconnected from magic. You chose it for a reason. And I feel that it's been very challenging for you. It's been tormenting, I want to say, to be separated from your magic because you have such deep, deep memories and remembrance of magic. But I feel it's actually not as far away as you think. And if you feel that it's in your life path because I don't want to say this for everyone because I know it's not really for everyone, but if you do feel it's in your life path to reclaim your magic in this lifetime, then you can 100% do that. I really feel that for you, group 3. Like, you totally can. That's available to you. It really is. There's something about don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything you're told. Don't believe everything that everyone else believes, because there's actually a lot more going on in this place. And this is what I meant when I said your lifetime is even more amazing, because I don't want to make it better than anyone else's, but you know what I mean? Like this wizard life, it's like, I can't even place it in a place. It doesn't even feel like it's in a place. And even Like it is. It's on Earth, but it's not known to us. It's almost like it was in a different dimension. And the priestess of the goddess, I kind of placed it in Greece, but it's like there's something more than just Greece, because I had a look, I like Googled what did the ancient priestesses in Greece like do, and I kind of didn't resonate for what I was feeling for your group. So there's something about it not being what the history books are saying is what your lifetime experience was, right? So just keep that in mind. There's something like more than that going on. So even this obstacles and challenges, it's like you're almost bridging the gap between, like, seeing how that bridge has got like the gap. It's like there's a gap in our knowledge of our history, of Earth's history, of what's possible in Earth. There's a gap there, and it's not the full picture, and you can kind of sense that intuitively. Okay, so back to your wizard lifetime. So in this lifetime, you had a mentor. They came to you in spirit, and you had a very, very close working relationship with you, because they came every day for a period of time, and they worked with you in training. Like, you were very, very disciplined. You were completely devoted to your path. Yes, very, very, very disciplined. And you worked very deeply with this person. They were another wizard, another male. You worked very deeply with them because they could see you fully from their vantage point of being a spirit. They could see you fully. They didn't have any illusions or shadows within themselves from being incarnate on the earth, right? They didn't have any projections. It was like they just saw you for who you were, and they saw you for all that you were doing, and they saw you so deeply. It felt very, very healing for you to like be seen so deeply by someone who was so devoted to your work. And it's like you had a soul contract together, which is why you felt so much grief when they passed on, because you felt like, but our soul contract, our work isn't finished. And then it was a huge surprise to you when they came to you in spirit, and it's like they materialized themselves completely in front of you, like a perfect image. And this is what I mean by mediumship in this lifetime. When you're we're a wizard, you're a wizard, Harry. When you're a wizard, it's like you actually had mediumship to the point where you could have invited all these deceased spirits with you for dinner, and they would all sit around the table, and it would be like you're having a dinner party. Like, it was very solid manifestation of mediumship versus like what I have, what a lot of people experience is a little bit like in this current reality of Earth, it's a little bit more wispy, and it doesn't necessarily stay for very long, and it's a bit blurrier and stuff. I mean, some people probably have it better than me, but you know what I'm saying. It's like there's something about your gifts in this lifetime where it felt really, really powerful. The mediumship I'm talking about, it felt really, really clear, like a dinner party. I'm seeing you having actual dinner parties. Like, you were never alone. It's really cool. You were never alone, even though you lived alone a lot. I think you might have had a quite solitary life. I think there was pressure from your family to marry, but I don't know if you wanted to. I'm not sure if you might. If you did get married, it was much later in your life, like in your later years, because there was pressure to continue the bloodline or something like this. But I felt this energy from you where it's like, you didn't want that for some reason. So you would have a lot of time alone. You lived alone, and your life was like devoted to your craft and your magic and your powers, and also to kind of like you were a little bit like a bit of a superhero, just a low-key one, because you would help humanity stay protected from evil. Like, you were really a very good wizard, definitely not a dark wizard or anything like that. You were a very good wizard, and you would help to protect humanity from evil. Yes, very, very good. You did good magic for protection and to manifest positive results for the highest good of all. Yeah, a lot of integrity in this lineage. So you had a lot of time alone, but then you would have these spirits visit you, and they would just hang out with you in your house like all the time. And you would talk to them as if they were your friends, as if they were actually there, because they were. It's just that they were in spirit form. So the mediumship level that I got when I tuned in with this life was like amazing. Like, seriously, what an amazing experience you've had. Like, it really was amazing. Very, very advanced, very, very advanced. So you were kind of like, there was something about this experience of Earth where there was still duality. It wasn't like completely unity consciousness. There was some kind of duality. There were dark wizards as well. And I see that you might have even like, I don't know, I feel like the dark wizards, they always wanted to battle, but you didn't want to. Like, there was something about you, the very non-violence. You didn't want to battle. You didn't want to like do harm or violence. And it's like something about you understood about violence. Like, if you do violence, then you're kind of inviting violence in. This is what I'm getting. There's some kind of like belief system that you've had through your lineage of wizards. There was something about you do not do violence, because if you do, then it brings it back into you. It brings it towards you. So you did some kind of like magic where you would push the violence away and you would like protect others through it. Really cool. So there was a lot of protection, guardianship, working with the elements to help bring balance and restore balance to the earth, to distribute goods and services. There's something about that distribution of supply. That's what it is, supply. Making sure there was supply, helping people with their destiny paths to be in the right place at the right time, meeting the right person. Whew, really interesting. But you did it in a very peaceful way. There was really no ego involved in it, because you understood a lot about the ego and about shadow and about violence and things like this, that it would bring the darkness in. So there was a way that you practiced magic where it was really of the light, and you kept yourself very separate to dark magicians. But a lot of dark wizards, dark magicians, they did want to kind of like hunt you down. There was like a very kind of like light versus dark energy involved in this lifetime. There was dark magicians, there were dark magicians, dark wizards doing some kind of rituals that were very much like not the sort of things that you practiced, and you understood about this very deeply, and you might understand about it even to this day in this life. You might understand about that darkness, the dark magic and things like this, because a part of your initiation was to study about it and to learn about it, so that you understood how they were using their magic. So your magic came from source, from spirit, from all that is. You had a different name for it though. What was it? I don't know. It was something like source, but in another language. You had a different word for it. And yeah, I'm seeing you could speak a lot of languages as well. Something about language, maybe it's like more than light language. It's like, it was more like catalogued, as if, imagine if light language, like all the different dialects from light language could have been like catalogued and put into places. It's like you could speak to all these different entities. You could speak to elves and fairies, and you could speak their actual language. Wow. Really cool. Yeah, you could speak the language of the earth, different languages of the earth. You also spoke a universal language which all understood. It's like a language of love, kind of like a light language, but it was like really deep and everyone understood it. Whereas like, on earth today, a lot of people don't understand light language. They're like, what is this? It's meant to be experienced in the heart, which I understand why people are like, wait, what does it mean? Because I think we're still kind of like, as a consciousness, growing in our ability to channel. Like, I feel like we're in the infancy stage of reclaiming this sort of like light, this language of light. But what I'm tuning into, this wizard lifetime, it was like really, really advanced. Imagine if light language was at its most advanced sort of thing. And there was like different dialects, different streams of consciousness, different realms had different languages. The elves, the fairies, the dragons, they all have their own language. And it's like you could speak them all. Yeah, you're a master of language. Wow. Okay. I'm in awe of this lifetime. I love it. I want to tune into it forever. You lived for a very long time as well. You were not limited to, like, you did eventually age, and I'm seeing you with like a long silvery beard, grey beard, white beard. You did age eventually, but it took you a lot longer than what we consider aging today on Earth. Like, I'm seeing maybe like 500 years or something. So it's like a very long time. You lived for a very long time. And that's why I mean, like, you lived a lot of your life in solitude, and then much later in life, you may have decided to have children. Before you were like grey and like your hair was going and stuff, before you like started decaying, you decided maybe to have children, but some of you didn't. Some of you did, some of you didn't. Yeah, but there was pressure from the family though. There was pressure from the family to bring the bloodlines, to continue the bloodlines of some kind, to have another son. The women of the bloodlines did have magic, but it was different. It was in a different form. It was practiced in different ways. It was a totally different lineage. Like, it was totally different energies, which I don't have access to right now because I'm reading your Akashic records. Okay, so what else am I getting? Clairsentient, psychic feeling of emotions, energy, or thoughts of others. Yes, you were very empathetic. Okay, that's something that's really important. Spirit wants to talk about now. Clairsentient is basically like the feeling of other people's feelings. Like, if someone's in the room, you can feel what they feel. You can kind of hear what they think. And it comes through very emotionally. Okay. So claircognizance is like an inner knowing. It's like, I don't need to know how, I just know how. But clairsentience is like an inner feeling. Like, I'm feeling this, I feel it. So you had a really deep intuition and, oh, sorry, I hit the tripod. Classic me. You had a really deep intuition and a deep sort of like telepathy. Like, you could read people's thoughts and you could understand their motivations. You could definitely tell if they were lying to you, which was quite funny to you when people would lie. And you were just like really intelligent as well. Like, you had a good sense of humor and you had a lot of love for humanity. Like, you had a really deep love for humanity. You wanted to help humanity. Like, you really were a guardian of the earth and you really wanted to help protect humanity from like dark magic and things like this. But you also understood about sort of natural law and like the laws of karma and stuff. You couldn't intervene with someone's destiny and their fate. And that's something you understood really well. You knew when to sort of step back and like not intervene, but you also knew when you were being called to intervene, I suppose. So teleportation. Oh yeah, just casually. Teleportation. Instantly moving from one place to another. So yes, I can't believe this, but yes, you were able to teleport. So you just through your mind's intention, you could move from one place to another instantly. And it made you very good at, now I'm tuning in. It makes sense why I was now, oh my God, so many words wanting to come out at once. Now that I'm tuning in, it makes sense why you had teleportation, because it helped you avoid violence, okay? Because if there was any kind of violence that started to come up from these dark magicians that you would maybe come up against, you could just teleport away and be like, not today, mate. I'm not doing this. So you're really good at avoiding violence, because there was some like rule in your lineage where you weren't allowed to do violence, even it's complicated, but I'm getting even in self-defense, you weren't allowed to do it, which I know is kind of intense, but it's like you would use the avoidance. And see how there's on that card, the Five of Wands, obstacles and challenges. It's like there's a gap between the bridge. There's a gap, and it's like you put a space between you. That's how you avoided conflict and violence, is you put space between you. But you were really a warrior, because you were fighting against like dark wizards. So by location, you could also be in two places at once. This was very handy for you because you had a lot of things to do on your to-do list, and you would like to get things done at record speed. Like, you were really fast. A lot of things. That's why I'm like talking so fast, because I feel like your energy coming through and you're like, tell them more. So it's like you were in two places at once, at one time. And this worked very well for you, like I said, because you had a lot of things to get done. You had a lot of tasks. There was a lot of responsibility and duty within this lineage, but you also loved every minute of it. And you were very deeply supported by the divine. And it was obviously a great honor to have these powers available to you. So yeah, so clairsentience, teleportation, bilocation, mediumship. Those were the gifts that I brought through for you. You had some kind of ancient pact, like part of your lineage was the devotion to non-violence and to the understanding that violence only brings more violence. So you didn't use it. So you would use like distance and avoidance, like teleportation kind of, to avoid any kind of violence. You would help free people from dark magic. I'm seeing like these dark wizards, sometimes they would do spells like over entire cities, and it would fall into darkness, and you would go there to like liberate it and help free it. And you understood that like light is more powerful than the dark. And it really is, because love is way more powerful than fear. So yeah, you had like a really deep kind of belief, I guess, in faith. And I feel you really helped people. I think you were more secretive. I don't think you were super out in public, like being like, hey everyone, here I am, the Wizard of Light or whatever. It was more like secret kind of service to the world, to the earth, because I see that in this version of the earth, like there were people that had, like a lot of people did have magic. There were a lot of different lineages of magic, but there were also those who didn't have magic, and that was more common, I suppose, than the magical beings. So it still was something that you felt like there was a lot of secrecy still. Yeah, it was more secret. Even I feel like it's still secret now, which is why I can't place it. It's almost like there's been a spell cast around it, so I can't see where it was. But that's perfect, and I'm okay with that. Okay, so onto your other lifetime where you were priestess of the goddess. I did channel Greece, but like as I'm tuning in, it could be somewhere else. So if you feel somewhere else, go with that. But in this lifetime, you were very, very worshipping of the divine feminine. You had a lot of wisdom around the divine feminine. So you had a very balanced, these 2 lifetimes, very interesting, female and male, very balanced energy. So you were a woman, you served as a spiritual leader. You were a conduit for the wisdom of the goddess. So you worked with one goddess in particular, and it was like you were devoted to that goddess. Like I said, I did feel ancient Greece, but it doesn't have to be. That's a bit more flexible because as I was tuning in, like I said, I don't feel like it's written in any of the history books what I was picking up on. So yeah. So what's going on there, right? So one of the few ways women could hold power, yeah, I do feel like there was still a mismatch of sort of gender power. Like there was a gender inequality, basically, where this was one of the few ways that women did have more authority in a way, and they had more of a freedom in their life, like more power in their life, rather than just being the role of a traditional female, whatever was considered traditional of that time, of that culture. There was something about this which elevated you, and you liked that because it gave you more freedom. And you also have some kind of real like nobility in you. Like I almost feel like a royalty or a nobility. Like you have a lot of power, and you're meant to really reclaim this power in your lifetime. See in the 5 of Wands, the obstacles and challenges card. See how there's like a gap between the bridge, like I keep pointing it out. It's super symbolic because there's a gap between you and your power in this life, and it's meant to be there. It's like, it's totally like, you couldn't really incarnate as this wizard being again, right? Like into this life. It's like there's like a reason for this. There's energies that we're working with within this current time frame on Earth, and the density and the shift to new Earth and things like this. So it's for a reason, but you are meant to really reclaim your power. And I see that bridge like closing up, and you're not feeling disconnected from your power anymore. And I feel you really coming back into your power and your strength. And it's almost this nobility, this integrity, or this royalty. And I don't mean royalty in like an earth royalty form where it's been like really corrupted and there's a lot of negativity to do with royalty and royal families. I'm talking about it at a spiritual level. It's like you have to be a certain kind of soul to have these kind of lifetimes where you're like a wizard having this much power, because you have to be able to do it in a way that is positive and of the light. So you have to be eligible for that kind of incarnation. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like there's something about your energy that's like really noble, has a lot of integrity, and is kind of like spiritual royalty in a way. But I don't want that to come out in the wrong way, because I feel like royalty isn't the right word, but it's something like that. It's something like that, but it's a spiritual way, in a spiritual way, not an earth way. And you have really forgotten that in this lifetime. You've been through a lot in your life, and I think you've been really downtrodden in sort of self-esteem ways, or like not seeing yourself clearly. Maybe not being seen by your family, not being seen by the world, like really not being seen is the energy I'm getting. And it's like that is changing now, and I feel like this reading is going to help activate that. You are meant to see yourself like fully, clearly, completely. You're meant to see yourself for the amazing person that you are, the amazing soul that you are, the integrity, the nobility as a soul that you hold. Like you are powerful beyond measure. Like you are so powerful, group 3. Like it's crazy. And I think that this life you're meant to awaken to that and remember it and think, oh my gosh, how was I not seeing this before? How did I not see how powerful I am? How did I not realize this? How did I live for so long like kind of like not in my power? Like it's going to be shocking to you, but it was all part of the plan. So in this lifetime as the priestess of the goddess, you were an oracle, ritual, you channeled rituals, you participated in a certain role in rituals. So there was sort of like rituals I'm seeing, and I don't think you were the high priestess, but you were a priestess. And there was like often one that might lead it, or different ones of you took turns at different times. There was more shadow in this lifetime than the wizard lifetime. Like in this priestess of the goddess, there was more shadow in the earth. There was shadow in the earth in the wizard lifetime, but in the wizard lifetime, you weren't part of that. You were part of like the light, and you were fighting the darkness. But in this priestess lifetime, there was a bit of like hierarchy within the priestesses, which wasn't always of the light, because sometimes power can corrupt. What is that saying? It's like power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's like something like this, where I think that there was a high priestess who you didn't trust, but man, that's really hard. It was really hard because like something like there was a power switch. Like you were already initiated deeply into this tradition. You'd already devoted a lot of your life to this tradition. And then the high priestess got swapped out to another one. And the new one that came in, you could see that they were not of the light. There was something about them that was really dark. they weren't in it for the right reasons, and you were like, no, but you were already really devoted to this, and you also wanted to protect the younger women that were coming in as initiates from her energy. So you had a very protective energy. You didn't want to see your lineage, like this goddess lineage, get corrupted. You were in service to the goddess first and foremost, but this high priestess was not, she was not of the light. She was not a good one. And I think that there might have been something even where you might have tried to, you wanted to expose her. You wanted to expose her, but you knew that you couldn't do that without it looking like you were the bad one. It's really tricky. This is like really like kind of like political energies where it's like, yeah. This is what I mean. There's a lot more shadow in this priestess lifetime. But and by the way, I think this priestess lifetime came before the wizard lifetime. Just so if you want like chronological, although, it's all kind of happening at once. But yeah, chronologically, if we want to look at that way, priestess one came first, then the wizard one later. So in this priestess lifetime, there was something about you were already older, like midlife or early to midlife, like middle life. Yeah, that's what midlife is. Middle of your life. And the high priestess got swapped to a new one. And this new high priestess, you could see the darkness in her. She was not of the light. And you knew that she was practicing like dark magic, black magic behind closed doors to get her power. And it wasn't through, like, the goddess didn't really appoint her. She got there through trickery and sorcery and like black magic. And you knew this because you could read energy really clearly. But there wasn't anything you could do about it, because if you came directly for her and like tried to expose her to the world, you knew that she would just sort of like turn it around on you and make you look like the bad guy. So what you had to do was you had to get her to expose herself over time, which she did. And then there was like a time where you realized like you had the opportunity and you like brought someone of authority like to witness this high priestess doing some kind of black magic ritual, really, really dark stuff. And they saw it, and then she got like taken away, and she got her justice. And you were like a part of getting that justice for your goddess. You were really in service to the goddess, and the goddess really highly favored you because you were of the light. And there were a lot of people who practiced, unfortunately, who weren't, and they were more interested in power and things like this. But you really weren't power hungry at all. You just wanted like purity and integrity, and like you wanted love for all people. And yeah, it really broke your heart when this high priestess came into power. But then after quite a few years, I want to say like over 5 years, after like maybe 7, 8 years, she was able to be exposed for who she was. So each of you, group 3, may have worshipped a different goddess, because I was like, is there one that Spirit wants me to bring through? But there wasn't, so I didn't say that. Your soul is deeply connected to the feminine. That's right. You are deeply wisdomous, deeply like knowledgeable, and have a lot of wisdom around the divine feminine. No matter what your gender is or how you express yourself, you are very deeply connected to the wisdom of the feminine, and you are meant to use this feminine energy in this current lifetime. Like, there's a reason Spirit wants to talk about this live, because it's actually going to help you a lot to remember that you have divine feminine wisdom inside of you, where you've lived a life devoted to the goddess and you understand the practices of the goddess. Things like receiving, things like understanding about manifestation, allowing, surrendering. These practices are not easy to do, but you have some kind of mastery at your soul level, and I'm hearing you need to allow yourself. You need to allow it. Remember and allow. Remember and allow. Remember and allow. Allow the divine feminine through you. Allow her power to come back to you. Allow it. Allow it. Allow it. Remember. 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 Okay, so your gifts: foresight, seeing the future; precognition, predicting events. I mean, they're pretty similar, but I was like, fair enough. They both came through. They both came through. They're pretty similar, but yeah, there was a lot about like the future in this lifetime. Like, you were really focused on the future. You didn't really give that much of a heck about the past. It was really about the future. And precognition, like, I see that you had even like premonition dreams. You'd have dreams. And when you would have prophecy, you would receive it, but it would be rare. And this was rare for all of the priestesses. It wasn't something that happened very often. And it was like a specific form of channeling that would come over you, where it would be like very much kind of like a lightning bolt of energy from the divine, where it would be like, boom, here you go. This is a prophecy about our world, about our future. And yeah, it would come through really, really strong, but it would be rare. So more common was precognition and foresight, seeing the future and predicting events. So foresight is like you could look into the future and you could see things unfolding, but precognition was more like you would have flashes and it would be like really specific, and you would also have like precognitive dreams as well. Sacred ceremonial rites, holding sacred knowledge passed down through initiates. They were secret and they were oral. Yeah, so sacred ceremonies, like you already are at a soul level initiated into sacred ceremony. You could run sacred ceremony very easily if you don't already. And you hold sacred knowledge passed down through the initiates. So in this lifetime, the interesting thing that I was getting is that a lot of things weren't actually written down. And this was because of how secret it was. This was like, this tradition that you were part of was very, very secret. And they didn't actually want it to be written down in a way that those books could be stolen and then corrupted and used for negativity. So it was like a lot of the secrets, the knowledge, the wisdom, the information was actually passed down orally. So it would be spoken word, and then it would be taken in at a sort of heart level. And as I was channeling about this, I was actually seeing Aboriginal Australians. So some of you might be connected to Aboriginal Australians or this kind of oral history traditions in other cultures as well, even in this life. There's something about this where it was like, it was passed down through speech, through words and through story, rather than through written text or books, or, it wasn't written anywhere. And like I said, this because it was very deeply secret, and there was something about that was just the way that your what's it called? Your tradition kind of wanted to do it. Okay, I think that my brain has stopped working, so that is the end of your reading. I so enjoyed tuning in for you today, group number 3. What an incredible soul that you are, and yeah, just really enjoy coming back into this remembrance of your sacred power. And I wish you all the best. If you'd like to check out more of my work, please see the links in the description box below. I'm sending you so much love on your path. So I've just created a new Akashic record clearing ritual and affirmation tape, like a sleep tape, that's going to help to reprogram your subconscious mind and really deeply clear your Akashic records. I channeled it as a karma clearing tape and ritual. And there's sort of a ritual you can speak aloud as well that I will give to you. So it's like a full kind of package of Akashic record clearing, and it came through really organically with this reading. It felt really connected to what Spirit wanted to bring through in this reading. So it will help you clear negative karmic imprints, contracts, and vows. It will help you release limiting beliefs and old karmic patterns. It will help you align with your soul's highest purpose and your true original divine soul blueprint. It will help you reclaim sovereignty and your truest expression of your power, and in general help with healing, love, and abundance in your life. So all the information will be linked in the description box below, but I really recommend you check it out, especially if you resonated with this reading. Much love and take really good care.